Hi, it's Nick from the Run Testers, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the Nike Zoom Fly 4 and the Adidas Boston 10. So, the Boston 10 and the Zoom Fly 4 have some similar characteristics in that Adidas and Nike kind of says that both shoes bring kind of race day technology from their top carbon racers to kind of your everyday training. And both are kind of billed as quite fast shoes that are also quite versatile. When it comes to the price, the Zoom Fly is the more expensive shoe. In the UK, it's £144.95, and in the US, it's $160. Whereas the Boston is £130 or $140. They've got similar drops. We've got an 8mm drop on the Zoom Fly 4 and an 8.5mm drop on the Boston. And they're both fairly heavy, which is something that a lot of people have talked about with these shoes. The Zoom Fly 4 is the slightly lighter in my size, which is a UK 9. It's 289 grams or 10.2 ounces. Whereas the Boston is 296 grams or 10.4 ounces. Actually, one interesting similarity between the shoes is they both seem to have kind of two-layer uppers. On the Zoom Fly 4, you've got kind of a nice breathable mesh outer layer, and then underneath this kind of booty, which is kind of a gusted tongue to the max. It really is like a sock-style feel around your foot with this slightly kind of raised lacing system. That's actually, I really like. It's done a really good job of clamping down on the foot. It's similar to the one on the Pegasus 38. You've got quite a lot of padding around the heel. It's a similar design to what you get on the Vaporfly, the kind of strip of foam, but it's kind of beefed up a bit more because this is more of a training shoe. And then you have got a full-length carbon plate in the midsole, but it's not Nike's Zoom X foam, the kind of stuff used on the top racers. It's a React foam, which is still fairly responsive and not too heavy, but it's a heavier, denser foam. It's a bit more stable, a bit firmer, and quite a lot more durable. Then on the outsole, you've got the kind of classic Nike outsole design. You've got two strips of rubber and then a generous forefoot covering. It's pretty good gripping shoe, I will say, and then some exposed foam there, but that's kind of React foam, which doesn't really get chewed up too much when you're just running on the roads. And then on the Adidas, like I say, you've got this kind of outer layer, which is this kind of thin, slightly see-through kind of mesh material, and then a gusted tongue, or again, kind of creating a two-layer system. It's probably one reason both these shoes are reasonably heavy, is this kind of, they're quite substantial uppers they offer. And on the Boston, you've also got quite a lot of reinforced sections around the kind of toe there. You've got probably a similar level of cushioning around the heel, I'd say, and the slightly superfluous cushioning outside the heel. But yeah, it's a big structured upper. It holds the foot really well, a bit like the Zoom Fly. Both have got, they might be a bit overbuilt, but also I really do like the uppers on both of these shoes. They do hold the foot nice and securely. There's a lot going on in the midsole of the Boston. You've got a top layer of Light Strike Pro, which is quite a thin layer at the heel here, and then a bit more substantial at the forefoot of the shoe. There's also a little carbon plate at the heel for stability, similar to the one you get in the Adios Pro 2. And then there's another layer of different foam, which is Light Strike EVA, which is an EVA foam. It's firmer, more durable, but a lot less kind of like bouncy and responsive than Light Strike Pro. It's, in the kind of top of the range Adidas racing shoes, you're getting completely Light Strike Pro midsoles, but here you're getting a mix of foams to kind of make the Boston a bit more durable and stable for regular use, but it does lose some of the pop of the racers. In between the two layers of foams, you have Adidas's energy rods. You can see them a little bit there. Now, on the Adios Pro 2, they're carbon fiber. On the Boston, Adidas describes them as anatomically designed carbon technology. Basically, they feel like they've got a plastic coating at least. They're not full carbon fiber like on the Adios Pro. You can see it's a very stiff midsole. I think they've probably got slightly more flex than the carbon rods in the Adios Pro 2, but not much. And then you've got a really nice continental rubber outsole. Lots of covering on there. Good grip, good durability. A little bit of a cutout, but you don't get that kind of big midsole cutout that you get on things like the Adios Pro 2 or Takumi Sen 8. So yeah, all in all, it's a much more stable shoe, and it's got good outsole coverage for grip and durability. When it comes to the fit, I found that both of these shoes were true to size for me. The Zoom Fly 4 was a little bit roomier around the toe box, but I still found it was really easy to get a nice, tight, comfortable lockdown fit with this, good lacing system. And the Boston 10 fit perfectly in kind of my true to size. I have a fairly narrow foot, so maybe some people might find it fits a little bit small, but yeah, I think true to size is the way to go with both these shoes. The Boston was the first of these two shoes I tested out, and I've done kind of about 125k in the shoe now, and that's ranged from fairly short track sessions up to a kind of 20-mile run. And it was a real grower for me. Like in the first run, I just really didn't like it very much. It just felt a bit too firm and just kind of not much joy in the run at all. But it did break in quite a lot after about 50k, and the ride now is really quite pleasant. It's a shoe I actually do quite like, and one that I think has a lot of uses as a pretty versatile daily trainer. It still does have a firm ride, I'd say that. It's not something like the Endorphin Speed 2 or New Balance Rebel 2. It's quite a firm ride, but it is stable, and kind of that's part of its appeal, really. It is a slightly different take on these kind of super training shoes, which use some of the tech from the top flight racers in a daily training shoe. So at the kind of top speed end, it lacks a little bit, but I did take it to the track and did like a quite hard ladder session where I did 400, 800, 1200 meters, a mile, and 2k in a row, with just short breaks in between, doing them all at kind of 90-second lap pace. And, I held it really well for that. In the second half, I did that twice in the workout, and in the second half, I used, I think, the New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite 2 for a true super shoe comparison, and that was much kind of bouncier and livelier, but the Boston just kind of got the job done, and that's really the impression I got from it from a lot of the runs I did in it. I did like going kind of long distances in it. I did a half marathon and a 20-miler in it, and it just provides a pretty solid ride. It's not out and out comfortable, it's not really springy, but once you're past that kind of braking period, it isn't too firm, and it does have a nice transition, and it just kind of helps you tick along on those kind of longer runs. So on that 20-miler, I think I held around 6:23 per mile pace throughout the whole run, and it was just kind of mostly running on feel, and the shoe felt pretty good. The weight didn't really come up for me much at all. Apart from towards the end when I got completely soaked and the shoe got a bit waterlogged, and there's a lot of upper there, and it did start to feel a bit heavy on the foot by then. But in general, I think this is a shoe that runs a lot lighter than its weight on the scales, which I think is quite important, because I think it makes it a more versatile option than the Zoomfly, because this, I think, is a shoe that is quite heavy and feels heavy on the foot, and it's partly because so much of the weight seems concentrated on the bottom of the shoe, this very dense feeling React foam, and I took this out of the box straight into a hard workout, running a couple of 3Ks at 320 per K pace with hill reps in between, and just couldn't hold the pace. It felt like the shoe was just leaden on the foot at times, and there just wasn't much bounce and kind of give from the React foam, and the plate just didn't seem to make much of an impression on me. Like, I don't know if I just couldn't get enough force through that React foam to get some spring from the plate. Now, I've used it for 85k in total. I've done a lot of kind of easy running in it as well, and it's okay. Like, I don't love the feel of it on easy runs. The one run I kind of really did enjoy it was a long run where it did have quite a nice transition, and I got into a groove with the shoe for the first time and felt like I had a bit of rhythm to it, and it was quite nice. And it's not lacking in versatility. I think it can do fast workouts. It's not a great choice for them, in my opinion, but it can do them, and it's okay for easy runs, and it's quite nice for long runs. But there's quite a lot of tech and stuff going on here that I think the shoe doesn't end up being more than the sum of those parts. It ends up being less of them. It feels heavier than it is. It doesn't feel springy or responsive. It should last a long time with that React foam, but I think it's such a step down from the experience of using a Zoom X foam shoe that it is very noticeable at pace. Like, I like React foam when I'm using it in kind of easier day shoes and solid options like the Nike Infinity React or Pegasus shoes, but for a shoe that's geared more towards fast stuff like this is, it just doesn't really work for me. It ends up being a little bit too heavy and lacking in pop. So, I think the two shoes have kind of similar problems in them, in that they both kind of bring some tech from the top of the range racing lines from Adidas and Nike, but not necessarily enough of the the right tech to make them really exciting kind of training options. Like, there is some Lightstrike Pro in the Boston, but there's also this big thick layer of EVA, and that does kind of deaden the ride a little bit and make it heavy and less useful for kind of fast stuff. And obviously the entirely React midsole on the Zoomfly means it's a very different experience to what you're getting on things like the Vaporfly and Alphafly with that Zoom X foam, which is so much lighter and bouncier in the midsole. Obviously they're not designed to be the match of those shoes, and they are kind of slightly more versatile. They are better for kind of general daily training, and they're more stable, kind of more durable and all that. And of the two, for me, I have ended up quite liking the Boston now. There are a lot of problems with the shoe, and I still think it's not one that I take over a few other options coming down to it, but it's a shoe I do like and I like using, and I quite like the look of it. I think it's a really nice kind of holiday shoe in that regard. You can wear it everywhere and actually do a good range of runs in it. Comes down to, I think I'd give it the edge slightly when it comes to fast workouts compared to the Zoomfly, and I like the feel of it in easy and long runs as well, so that does make it the more versatile option. Like, I don't think either shoe is particularly good for workouts where you're holding hard paces for long stretches, so kind of like 2k or 3k reps, or even, just slightly faster than maybe tempo pace 10Ks and that. But if you're doing short reps, there actually is a bit of response here. And even though the Boston is the heavier shoe, it feels lighter on the foot for me. And it does provide a really nice, stable, secure feeling on the run. It's a big high stack, but it's firm. It's got good upper. The way the shoe is designed allows for a very, reliable feeling on the run. And that's similar, and that's kind of the same here with the Zoom Fly, but it's more so with the Boston. It's a more stable shoe, and one that I'd be very happy shuffling easy runs in, as well as using for lots of general mileage. I'd say both of them are going to last a long time. They both seem, well built, good, hard foams. If you're looking beyond these, there are some other really fantastic fast daily trainers that actually are more versatile. There's the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2, the Hoka Mach 4, Skechers Go Run Razor XS, the New Balance Rebel V2. But if you're sticking to, Nike and Adidas, the Boston is the better shoe of these two, in my opinion. I find it just more enjoyable to use. It's one that I feel quite happy picking up again, whereas when I finished kind of my review testing of the Zoom Fly, I don't really have the inclination to ever get out in the shoe again. It just doesn't have much going for it. Even on the runs I did enjoy, there are other shoes I would prefer to use for kind of long runs and general training. So yeah, just between these two, I give it to the Boston. It's a bit cheaper as well. That's always a nice bonus, and I think it's slightly nicer looking, which is, again, always a bonus. But yeah, you've got a couple of options here that are reasonably versatile shoes, but don't really kind of deliver on their promise of bringing the Adidas and Nike's kind of top race technology to a daily trainer. They're just quite solid daily trainers that don't really have too much in common with things like the Adios Pro 2 or the Vaporfly, in my opinion. So that's it, guys. That's our comparison of the Boston 10 and the Zoom Fly 4. Have you used both shoes? If you have, let us know what you think, which you prefer. And if you don't use either of these, what is your kind of go-to shoe of choice? Yeah. Other than that, please like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.